Hello everybody, today is the start of the progressive suspension rebuild on this front end on the Monkey. Best way I found to do this, mine's suspended from the engine guard, but you can suspend from the bars. And then you want to take some duct tape and tear it into strips and then protect your caps. Those are aluminum caps right there. And they're 36 millimeters. Problem is if you just go at them with a 36 millimeter or even an adjustable open end wrench, you'll mar them up. These things are on there tight, and when I say tight, real tight. So you're going to need a large adjustable wrench like that right there. And this right here is for a fan clutch, and this is a 36 millimeter. And I might need this to torque them down. I doubt it though. I think I'm just going to use my big wrench. You take off. You want to loosen those caps though. Step one is loosen your caps with your big wrench. And like I said, they're on there, so you're going to want to protect your tank. So if you slip, you don't mar your tank. And apply force using against your bars, and you'll get it to break loose, but mine were on there really tight. So anyways, here we go. We're going to take the front tire, what do they call those lower bark guards, I think is what those are called, and wheel off, slide out the tube, the fork tube there. And I'm doing a complete deal. I'm putting new seals and dust seals in. This is a 2020. It sat in a shed for all those years. It only had 113 miles when I bought it here in late 2025. So I'm having to go through it. I had to go through the gas tank. It had old gas in there and was all rusted up. Need a new fuel pump. I put new shocks on the rear. These could handle adult riders. These are these RFY shocks, and they work great. I'm 216 pounds, and they work great. So much so that the front feels like crap, and it dives, and it's just, I would just dare to say for a 200 plus pound rider, the factory front end's not really safe at high speeds, especially if you hit like a hedge apple or something like that in the road that causes that suspension to really jar and roll. It could cause an accident. Especially with those lower tires. If this steering starts to give you the wobble, it's sensitive. So if you have one of these Monkeys and you take it up to 60 mile an hour and you just go like that, you can feel the bike wants to go like that. It's that close to balance. And it may be even more so because I did put a smaller tire, just a slightly smaller tire on the front and the rear of this motorcycle, because the factory tire size, there's limited options, and there's more options for the Grom size tire, and that's what's on this bike. But it definitely is not the most stable as far as directional stability. Once it wants to wobble, I'm afraid that it would really go crazy. But anyways, that's just a little bit of my observations of the Monkey. And I'm hoping that tightening up this front suspension will help that out quite a bit. And in the end and conclusion of this video, I will have a test ride and feedback. So keep watching and we'll just get it done together here. This is a 5 millimeter for your barks, your guards. Make sure and hold your marker and stuff together so it doesn't scratch your stanchion tube. Caliper bolts are a 12 millimeter. nut here is a 19, and your head over on this side is a 14. And your axle comes free, and your two wheel spacers. They're exactly the same height, so you don't have to worry about one side being the other side or whatever. They're the same height. So to get your fork tube out of the triple tree, you're going to want to loosen your bolts evenly. I do the lower first and then the top, but you're not going to want to back out the one all the way. You do a little bit and then a little bit, a little bit, then a little bit. Same with tightening it back down. And that's so you don't overstress one of the pinches. And what size this is, that is a metric 6mm hex head here. So I just go a little turn, then a little turn. It's literally like quarter turns I'm doing here. Just like so. And I keep doing the quarter turn in each one until they're free spinning. And on the other side, I forgot to remove the tape first, and that made it hard to get the tube, the protective tape I put on the cap. It made it hard to get the tube out. So this side, I'm going to get that tape off first. Tape's on there good. Man. But that's what you want to protect your caps when you hit it with that heavy adjustable wrench. And hold on to your tube, because as soon as you loosen this tube up, it's going to want to fall. See, it's ready to go. And then use your hand to support your tube so you don't scratch it coming out of the triple tree. Like so. Next step is going to be to loosen your cap up, which I'll do with my wrench. And I'm going to drain it overnight. You got to hold the lower part when loosening it. Be real careful not to scratch up your cap. That's why it's pretty important to have a 36mm wrench, even though you have an adjustable. It just makes it a lot easier to get your cap loose. And once it's loose, the lower tube should slide free, like so. You just let her pour out overnight. All right, everybody. So this is after the next morning. Draining that fork oil out overnight really is nice because it gets it all out. If you're not in a hurry to do this job, I suggest you do that. You give it a few pumps, just to get the fluid, the bulk of it out when you put it in your drain pan overnight. But come the next day, it's a much cleaner job whenever you go to do this. So this is a progressive suspension kit, as the title says. A lot of people don't know what progressive suspension really is or why they have that name, but it's about the progressive spring rate. So you look at like a lot of your spring kits available online for these vehicles, for the Monkey and Grom, they're a fixed spring rate through the whole travel of the spring. The progressive suspension is designed to get progressively stronger as the force increases, i.e. allowing it to be cush unless it's a really hard pothole or you hit something, then it tightens up the suspension, i.e. the progressive suspension. Things that it comes with washers, PVC that you cut based upon the weight of the rider, some new valves. Those are valves. There they are. I'm not going to unwrap them until I'm ready for them. And tools you'll need. So you can use sockets to drive the seals, and you don't even need to do the seals whenever you're doing the progressive suspension kit, i.e. your dust seal and your main fork tube seal. But this bike is a 2020 model. It has only 113 miles on it, but it's old. So those seals, I don't know. My Harley, I never changed them until I did the lowering progressive job, and it was like 15 years old at that time. I don't even know how long a fork seal actually lasts. I think it's highly determinant on riding condition, dirt, dust, debris, that kind of thing. I know on MX style bikes, you got to do your fork seals quite frequent, and they actually make little tools to clean them out after you're done riding. But anyways, so I don't know how long a Monkey seal will last, and I don't know if a Honda seal's better than a Moose seal or vice versa. I just went with what the company had available when I ordered the fluid and the suspension kit. I just went with the best option, which was Moose in their inventory. Other tools, they say you can get away with just using sockets to drive out everything, and that's what I plan on doing. It's a 1-inch socket is what they say will fit down in this tube with extensions. But to drive it all back in, I guess you can also use a socket, but I got this cheap thing from eBay, and it's designed for this size of tube, stanchion tube, and to drive the seal properly. I don't know if it matters. This is a pretty small tube. You could probably push it in with your fingers. I don't know. I haven't done one of these before, just big bikes. So real quick, I'm gonna show you the instructions. So if you want to pause it or zoom in on these, we'll just go real quick. I'll just move back and forth for them. You can pause it and move the video around as you need. But you're going to need a micrometer. That's just a cheap Pittsburgh one from Harbor Freight Digital. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I'll probably actually break out my quality. Hell, I got a quality mic around here that I can lock in position. And that way, when you go to cut the PVC spacer, I get exactly the same distances. Because you got to literally cut that on your chop saw. But anyways, here we go with the rest of the video. All right, next step here is going to be to get your cap off. It's got a jam nut, 17 millimeter jam nut. looks like the next step is to scoot your rod down until you're able to see the top of the stanchion tube where it's got holes, which is this part right here. I think you can't pull it this way to get it to separate. You got to go that way. So you have to get the lower leg off. So you need specialty tools at this point. The specialty tool that you're going to need clamps into these holes, and that's this tool right here. This is from Steady Garage. That's your part number. And it comes with the block and the socket. And this is the 14 millimeter. You have to have a far reach one to get down in the tube, so that's why it's long like that. Set that over there for now. And then this guy, little marking there. So that guy goes like that. Like so. And then we clamp her in the vise. So this part, to get off your lower, I guess this would be the forked foot. I don't know what they technically call this. But this is not right tight, left loose. This is right loose, left tight, so it's reverse thread. Make sure you are aware of that. It also has Loctite in there. People use a blowtorch to heat this up, and they say it doesn't damage this powder coat or paint or whatever's on here, but I'm personally going to use a heat gun. And in conjunction, I'll take and check it with a laser after I put a little heat on it for a while. Let's give that a try. Let's see what happens. And like I said, right's actually loose, and that's loose. That wasn't that hard at all. So that actual temperature is, right now it's 195. It's cooling off pretty quick. So my suggestion would be to go ahead and get the leg off before it cools. But remember, your leg is hot. Yeah, I can feel it tightening up as it's cooling. So I'd say that was about 25 pounds of force is all it took to break that loose. Maybe 30. I don't know, it could have been 40. Wasn't much. So that's what the threads look like. And this is a good time to go ahead and clean it when it's hot. So get your wire brush and clean that up. And like I said, it's best to go ahead and clean them when it's hot. You can wipe the majority of that rust off with some WD-40. So I'm using some light steel wool to clean up the rust that is formed around there. And it was really important to get the lower tube as clean as possible, get the threads cleaned out. And like I said, you do it when it's warm, when it's still hot. It makes it so much easier. Towel and wipe it off. So another reason why I wouldn't use a blowtorch is that your cap has got rubber. So I wouldn't get that rubber much above, 250, 300 degrees without worrying about that burning. So yeah, and this is under spring load, so just be aware. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. So this is standard thread. You saw how tight that was. There it is. Oh, that's not that much pressure. I was prepared for a Harley Davidson. That's not much pressure at all in that tube. So you got a washer, you got your seal, which those all look to be in good shape, and then you got your spring. Oh, yummy. Let me get a towel for that. Now, if you're just doing the spring kit, you can stop at this point, and you don't need to take it apart further. You can start rebuilding your tube. But in my case, I want to put new seals. So what we're going to do is we're going to push out everything, separate the two, like so, and that leaves us the stanchion and then the stanchion tube. And you want to do your best not to scratch this or damage this tube in any way, shape, or form, because that is what gets you in trouble. Alright, so let's see what we got here. There it goes. Yep, just pops right out. Like so. Then down in there, looks like there's a couple little keeper ring, and then you'll have to push the other seal out from the other side. Alright. Bushing, washer, seal. So now I'm going to have to press that out. Alright, I'm back at it with you guys. I had to take and grind a little bit off around where they pressed in the Craftsman on the steel. The flare-up was just enough to block the tube. So what you want is you want 33.9 to 34 millimeters exactly on the inside diameter of this tube to push out that seal. Slide her down the inside of your tube like so. You'll hit that seal. There we go. It's time to reassemble. So, we get our bushing. Bushing goes in first. All right, so what I'm trying to do is get that bushing pushed back down in that tube. All right, so I've got an 1 1/16 socket here. I'm gonna use that to drive the bushing back into the tube. All right, so the bushing keeps going until it's flat in there. Alright. Bushing seated, washer seated, the new seal. Make sure you get it all goobed up. New seal goes in. Hell, I can probably press this by hand. I definitely got it started by thumb. All right. Just like that. You can literally feel its seat. That easy. And you want to get it below the edge where that lip, that clip clips in. Like so. Then your new dust seal snaps in there. And that should be really simple. Just make sure and get some fork oil on it. It'll make it slide in there a lot easier. And it just kind of just pops in there like so. So that's new seals in the lower fork. So now the next step, you gotta take off your piston rings. So that's this part. This is your piston and spring. I think we leave all this alone. Your stanchion, bushing and bushing ring. I think that all stays left alone. Directions say to remove the piston ring. Really light. Like incredibly lightweight. It's incredibly lightweight for that piston ring. Then looks like we take our new piston. Which is like this, and you want to make sure your castle, it's shaped like a castle nut, but the castle goes down. Be real careful with this ring. Just like so. Just like so. So the OEM top out spring also gets transferred. That's this one to there. Insert the new piston rod assembly into the fork tube. Just like so. All right, next is the piston and spring. Okay, so the progressive spring, the higher, the more compressed coil goes up towards the top of the tube. So your next insert is the piston itself, or not the piston, but the spring, like so. This is your old one. Get that out of the mix. And then it wants one of the washers. You get 4 of them in the kit. So one more time, the more uncoiled goes towards the bottom of the tube, and the more coiled goes towards the top. Then it wants a washer, and then our PVC spacer that we're going to trim here in just a second to the 200-pound rider. Actually, I think it's 216. Yeah, 220 we're going to trim to 21 millimeters. Then stick that in there, then the other washer, and then the cap. And then we'll put the leg back on, reassemble, fill, put the tube back on the bike, and then that's done. All right, everybody, I'm back. I made the spacers. They're exactly 21 millimeters each. And it was a pain in the butt. So yeah, I cut them a little long. The first one I messed up and cut at an angle. Yeah, so it's not easy to cut those spacers, but I did it off camera. And now they're both exactly 21 millimeters as defined by the chart here for the regular height kit. So 21 millimeters. We're gonna go washer, spacer, washer, cap. I don't know how tight it's supposed to be. I'm just putting it back to where it was by hand. All right. I'm using blue Loctite. Not trying to get too crazy with it, just enough to coat them threads. Oh yeah, lefty tighty, righty loosey. Grab that axle. And good and tightened. All right, so now we reversed everything, which is this guy here, this guy here. Jam nut goes on first, all the way down, and your cap. All right, so that bottoms out. The cap bottoms out, and then you take and lock your jam nut up to the base. What I mean is this bottoms out on the thread, and then your lock nut, your jam nut, comes up and then butts against it. And that jam nut is a 17 millimeter. You want to hold your head with your 36 millimeter. And then you're going to tighten your jam nut. About like yay. Doesn't have to be crazy tight, just tight enough to lock it in place. Alright, so that's that fork done. And now to the other side, a quick montage. step is to put 215 cc's of fluid in each of these bad boys. And it's 5-weight fork oil. Despite what people say online, it's 5-weight. And I wouldn't put anything other than 5-weight in. That's what Progressive wants. That's what I'm going to put in there. I like to run it up and down until it stops gargling. It just sounds like normal fluids moving. All right, once you're satisfied with how it sounds, and you feel like you got all the air out of there, go ahead and tighten your cap back up. Whoops. And by this point, your hands are really oily with Fark oil. And you just get it tight enough so you're not leaking fluid. Oh my goodness, that's way better. Wow. Wow. That's way better recoil, just in one. It's an amazing difference. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. I'm really stoked. Slide it back in using your hand to guide. And what I do is I line the tube up to the top of your triple tree, just like so. Don't worry about orientation because the lower spins. And then tighten that one down. Just snug it. Snug it. Snug. Snug. Now, we can take and torque these down. All right, so the torque for these is 27 Newton meters, or 19 and some change inch pounds, or foot pounds, I'm sorry. Okay, it's just really tight. So what I do here to make sure they're the same height is I'm going to run the axle tube through, or the axle. But first I'm going to lightly tighten this top one just to hold it so I can go get the axle tube. And I think that it's probably closer to like right there. But pinch that down just like that. Wait, I have the axle. All right. So then you run your axle through. And you make sure you're level, which that went right through, no problem. So that's perfect. That's perfect, just as I thought. Just that one little spot. All right, let's see. Oh yeah, that's way better. That matches the rear now. Golly, that's a whole different motorcycle. All right, time to take it for a test ride, see how it performs. Gotta go get the keys.
So the test ride was just like the initial impression, amazing. Match those progressive springs up with the cheap Chinese rear shocks and you have a heck of a suspension for the monkey.